Hi, I'm Suzanne Napany, and I'm a licensed California attorney.
Hi, I'm Sam Canut, California licensed attorney. I'm also licensed in the state of Michigan.
And we're going to talk to you about protesting and how it can go wrong since it's 2020 and there's been a lot of things going on lately. But I want to mention that we have a disclaimer, and that is that whatever you hear in this video or see between our discussion is only for informational purposes. You should not rely on it. You should seek counsel. And we hope that you find this video informative.
And I would agree that, I practice bankruptcy and divorce, but it's so relevant right now, and you can do so much due diligence on Google and then go to the source and find the facts for information that you need.
Yes, I'm a business lawyer. I'm counsel to healthcare entities. I'm general counsel. I really like preventing issues with my clients' businesses. And so this topic was interesting to me because currently there are a lot of protests going on. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and there's also been some rioting and looting. Today is June 4th, and we've been under curfew in Los Angeles, where I'm located, and tonight's the first night that we don't have a curfew. And even though the rioting and protesting may come to an end over George Floyd's recent horrible death, there could still be more riots or other reasons to protest in the future. So Sandy and I decided to do this video to hopefully do a public service to the viewers.
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever been scared at my office. I've never been scared. And it's important that everybody stay on heightened awareness, but be careful of their rights. And I think that's what we're trying to impress upon people today.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about, like I said, protesting and how it can go wrong. And we're just going to go over some of the issues that could come up. So I'm going to first talk about issues with protesting because I was invited to protest with my friends a few weeks ago. And I had one of my friends who's an attorney who said, be careful, because there was a woman out of San Diego who led a protest group, and the prosecutor out of San Diego was investigating whether or not to press charges. And so as a member of the bar, I would never want to do anything to risk my license. And what I looked up and found out was that apparently members of the bar only have to report felonies, not misdemeanors. So hopefully protesting would never lead to a felony if I was involved. But I did message my friends who I went with and said, look, we can't be insulting. We can't let this get out of control. I don't want to be liable for any of this. So I was researching all of my rights to do protesting, and I want to go over some of those with you because I'm an attorney. Maybe you don't remember them from school, or maybe you would like a refresher course on the Constitution. But basically, we have the right to protest and freedom. We have freedom of assembly in the United States, and even in California, we also have a California Constitution. And so the protesting right and freedom of assembly is implicated in both the California and U.S. Constitution. And California Government Code prohibits any order under the California Emergency Services Act from suspending or overriding the California Constitution. And that's relevant because even though there was a pandemic going on, there were so-called orders to stay at home. What were you in violation by protesting? Even now, with current coronavirus still issues going on, you need to look at whether or not you have a right to freedom of assembly. And I believe, again, this is only for informational purposes, but I felt like I do because in the Constitution, we're not supposed to be deprived of life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness without due process. And there's also the Equal Protection Clause. And the First Amendment goes on to say that we have the right to peacefully assembly and to petition the government for those rights. And I really like this quote by Thomas Jefferson that said, he said, when governments fear the people, there is liberty. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. So while we have the right to petition and to protest, that right is not unfettered. There are restrictions. For example, hate speech is prohibited. There's inciting violence, trying to get others to get violent, is also prohibited. I saw a case out of New York where two lawyers were actually arrested for throwing homemade bombs, but they were also inciting others to violence. And I feel terrible that that could have happened with anybody, but the fact that a lawyer would have done something like that is even worse to me, because we're supposed to know what's right and wrong, and we're supposed to advise people accordingly. It just shows a true lack of control and being reasonable. So
Well,
you can
we're
protest.
supposed to, sorry to interrupt, but we're supposed to set an example whether we want to or not. I mean, that's our job.
Right. So they could have been protesting peacefully in line, not throwing bombs. So sometimes, though, there is that area where, like, can I do this or not? Because fighting words are prohibited. But for example, if you were to say, I have this gun, and if so and so were here, I would just kill him. And it could be a politician, and I don't want to go into politics right now, but political hyperbole is okay. So it's related to assault and battery. Assault is creating such a fear in somebody that it's something that could be a civil or a criminal charge against you, because you've caused so much fear in them. So there is like that gray area, and you need counsel before with an attorney who can go through this. By the way, Sandy and I, like we said, we're not criminal defense attorneys. We're just doing this as a public service. If my business clients were to come to me and ask me about any kind of defense for any of these potential crimes, then I would refer them to a criminal defense attorney. So I want to go into more detail about the risks of protesting, because, like I said, it could go wrong in so many ways. For example, I told my friends, you cannot drink, and do not drink while we're doing this. I don't want any tickets, no drunk in public, save the alcohol for later. I just don't think when you mix the two, it can lower your inhibitions. All of a sudden, maybe you're incited to throw some bottle that has gas in it and it's a bomb. You don't want that to happen. And then what if you're with somebody who does commit a crime? You could actually be tied to that crime as well. That's you could be considered an accomplice. I had a friend warn me, there's going to be FBI surveillance of these protests. You need to be careful of that. And what if you are what if the CONTELPRO is going after you, which was a counterintelligence program to try to discredit protesters, members of organizations just like feminist organizations or the Black Power. Historically, the government may have gone after those types of groups, and I would never want that to backfire against my career, because this is very important to me. I love my job. So then other things that can go wrong are, what if this backfires and you post about protesting and your friends or your so-called frenemies are nasty about you protesting. So I had that happen. And fortunately, I'm partner of an international law firm, and I do think that my partners, well, we can't talk about whether or not they would support me, but you could be at a law firm where you have a policy against protesting. So you need to be careful about looking at how the risk to your job, make sure that you don't have that policy or that you get it approved with your job. The other thing that I said to everybody was, you need to have masks. We need to do social distancing. We need to do this protesting in a safe and responsible manner. And so we did. And, it could have gotten out of hand, but everything was fine. I felt like our message was heard, and there were some changes that were implicated, but in terms of the law. So I was very happy about the whole experience, but I'm just, I want to put some information out there to help you. So aside from all of those risks, there are other more serious risks, like failure to disperse. Like, these are criminal charges that can occur. You can get a disturbing the peace charge. You can get, actually, even though we talked about lawful assembly, there's also unlawful assembly. And that's when you're doing something legal, but in a violent, boisterous, or tumultuous manner. And even, like I said, presence in the group could implicate liability. So there also could be a nuisance, and many others that Sandy is going to go into detail about.
Yes, you want to protest what you believe in, but you don't want to get in trouble, and you can get in a lot of trouble. The most frightening thing for me is the riots hit a couple days ago, about 2 blocks up. We're all feeling a mix of emotions. You're compassionate, you're angry, you're this, you're that. as a business owner, what I found out that was utterly shocking was that business owners were outside grabbing the police, and this is a little bit of a crossover with something we're going to talk about later, but they were out trying to get help from the police and they were being arrested. And that really scared me because I was out front of my office, obviously scared. Neighbors were boarding up windows. We were all confabbing or talking together. But you have to be absolutely careful. And you have to remember, as a business owner, the police are in melee. They're in chaos. They may not necessarily know that you're a business owner. Can you imagine seeking their help and then you're arrested? That's a big deal. So you need to think about that, and you need to choose wisely how you react to protecting your business. I'm in a strip of, storefront offices. So there can be a lot of chaos and confusion, and you have to keep your head on. Looting, it's essentially burglary during a pandemic. The code that we have would like for you to look up if you need to read it, which is Section Penal Code 459. That's every person who enters a house, room, apartment, tenement, shop, warehouse, store, etc. Every person who does that with the intent, if your intent is to commit grand or small larceny, is guilty of a burglary. And what you have to remember, just because you didn't break the window, like Suzanne was just saying, what if you're with friends and your friends get you in trouble and they think, oh, there's no police around. So the friend breaks the window, but you go in and steal these Nike sneakers or whatever. You're up for burglary? Is that really worth it? No, it's better to stay home and stay safe. Again, as Suzanne said, I'm not a criminal law lawyer. I do divorce and bankruptcy. I have some wonderful referrals for criminal law, but there are penalties, and I know that the penalties can be fact specific. So if you're looting, it depends on the specific form of the crime committed. You may be charged for a misdemeanor or a felony, and what you have to remember is that is going to follow you. There are other ways to protest. Even a misdemeanor can carry a year or more in jail. To rioting, it's great to protest. I love being in America, and I'm from 2 college towns. So I love what protests represent and what we can do. We have our voice heard. However, that doesn't include vandalism. Vandalism is simply a crime. It's when you're damaging or destroying property, whether it's egging, graffiti, breaking through windows. And the reason we bring that up is a lot of times we do things that we think are maybe innocent, and they're not innocent. And you have to ask yourself, is it worth the fines that you can get, or what you can be accused of if the police catch you doing this? So, reiterating what Suzanne said, if you're going to protest, make sure it's peaceful. And if it turns ugly, you need to get out, get a safe way out as soon as you can. The key in looking at spray painting, that kind of thing, is any unauthorized writing or drawing. It can even be prosecuted, even if it's not permanent. So you also have crimes that carry much harsher punishments. If you vandalize something such as a religious institution or using caustic chemicals. I know in New York, last night on the news, I saw that there were rioters or organizers, I don't know who they were, advertising where bricks were. Imagine if you walked by and picked up a brick because you saw this and you didn't know that that was planted there by an organization to use against the police. You could be in a lot of trouble. So unfortunately, in this time, we all want to exercise our constitutional rights, but you have to be cognizant of what you might be violating. Trespass. These are all the things that can go wrong. Trespass, entering someone else's property without the right to do so. Oh, but I didn't do it. My friend broke the window. If you're in that property, it's not your property. You've perhaps committed a trespass. Arson, maliciously setting fire to another person's property. This is a felony, okay? It's not cute, all right? The penalty can depend on whether you injured a person, which is going to heighten your penalty, how much damage was done, and whether it was intentional or just reckless. So I think the key here is if you do want to protest, do it. It's your right as an American citizen. If you see it going wrong, you probably need to make a quick, safe exit. A hate crime, you are at risk. You are at risk if you target someone with a disability, gender, nationality, race, ethnicity, religious, or sexual orientation, and mess with their civil rights or property because of their protected class. In these kind of cases, your sentence will be enhanced. So again, this is more along the lines of telling you, please be careful and think while you're out there protesting. There are many ways to get your voice heard, such as voting. I'll throw it to you, Suzanne.
Right, thank you. That was great. So I feel much more informed now, and I'm going to be much more careful next time. And I want you all to, who are watching this as well, to be careful. But also, I want the business owners who have been calling me recently, retailers who have been wondering, oh my God, there's rioting, looting going on. What can I do? Even, to be quite honest, even before this all started, as soon as the lockdown and the orders to stay at home were imposed, I emailed all of my clients saying, perhaps get your equipment, get the valuables out of your store. When the stores are closed, you're at a risk. And so I helped one of my clients get their computers and stuff because I went to visit them and check out their store and help them with this. So that could have been done before, but now the stores were supposed to be opening. So I can see why maybe the equipment or the products were restocked and now it could have been looted. But businesses really need to have insurance, commercial general liability insurance. Probably includes rioting. If you have to make a claim, you may need assistance with counsel because the insurance companies may be doing their job, which is to deny, defer, and otherwise. So you may need an attorney to write a very persuasive letter. It's amazing how I've helped my clients get things that were once denied to get money in their pockets after putting pressure on the insurance companies for bad faith. So you need to just also assess your property for liability vulnerabilities. Like if there's any windows that could be smashed, maybe you could install better locks. The camera footage, I heard of one business owner who was watching the looters in his store on camera all night. I mean, how horrible is that? So cameras only do so much, and night is the camera footage really going to be where you can identify people, or is it going to be too dark? So check that out. Check to make sure your cameras are clear also. I've seen some signs on stores that were boarded up, and some of them may say Black owned or minority owned. They may say, our hearts with George Floyd. I saw all types of things that were all types of stores that were boarded up with those types of murals on them. And some of them were really beautiful. I'm hoping that at the end of this, they will save them and do something with that artwork. But I'm not really sure if that works as a deterrence. It might. We'll see after all this is over. Then the other thing is, you need to, I know this sounds simple, but the state and local police and authorities should have information on how to protect your store and what you can be doing. The other thing is that I've seen people standing in front of their stores with guns, and that is concerning to me because they may be the store owner. They may not be sufficiently trained on how to use a weapon. Maybe they should have a security guard there who's licensed and who is experienced in using that weapon, and so that their liability may be for any, it reduces potentially the store's liability if you've outsourced that type of work to a security guard versus taking it into your own hands. You don't want to be a vigilante. So if you are looted and you are burglarized, you may have claims against those people for trespassing or conversion, where they take your property and they don't give it back to you, larceny. And then Sandy is going to now talk about whether or not utilizing a gun is a good idea.
I want to go to that in 1 second. I want to touch on what you just said with the cameras. Also, I've had a problem with personally where always check your remote access to those cameras, because sometimes they go down, the Wi-Fi is broken. Have a workflow on checking those cameras. You don't want to have an emergency and say, oh, wow, I can't see the camera now from my house. So that's really important. I just had a problem with that on a relative out of state. And I cannot stress this enough. Get to know your neighbors. If you, especially in a storefront business where you're not in a secured concierge high rise, get to know your neighbors. We work together. My neighbors have cameras. I've got cameras over here. I just can't tell you how heartwarming it was. It's actually going to make me cry. How much we were all afraid together, but we're all working together to protect our businesses. The young man 2 doors down boarded up his business because he has products that can be snatched, and he offered to come in here and board up ours. But we have bars on the window. I have bars on the windows. Also, I really was weighing the risk. You don't think about these things until you're in the situation. Should I board them up and draw attention, or should I just leave it alone? Should I put up a sign saying Black owned, as Suzanne was saying, am I a target or not? Or are they just going to say, oh, sure, and just, I don't know. Those are the kind of gut decisions that you have to make, but definitely get your merchandise out. And then the other thing, sorry, I know I need to get to concealed weapons, but if you are leasing your business, contact your landlord. Have a good relationship. I have a wonderful relationship with my landlord, and we have been in full communication during COVID and during the riots. And he is very appreciative of me informing him. And I think as a landlord, you need to present goodwill and decide what you're going to do. He said he was going to forgive rent for people if they weren't earning money. And I thought that was really neat. He wasn't going to have them pay back. So keep the goodwill with the people around you, because then they're going to want to protect you as much as they protect themselves. Now, self-defense. This is where I'm really out of my league, and I give you this disclaimer. If you have a gun, you need to know how you can and cannot use it. And before I even say anything about it, I would suggest that if you have questions, you go to the State of California Department of Justice. The website is https:/oag.ca.gov/firearms. They have frequently asked questions there. And the bottom line is, can you carry a gun in California concealed? Yeah, in your car, unloaded, in a vehicle, 18 or over, locked in a container, separate from the bullets, and only to transport to and from. Otherwise, if you're going to ask questions of Suzanne and I about whether you can carry concealed, you need to really go to the source and go to the sheriff's department. You need, and if you're watching this from another state, go to your police station, go to your sheriff, get your local and your state laws. They are very unique. My uncle is a Marine. He lives in Michigan, where I was just recently licensed. He knows a lot about carrying guns. They have open carry permit, but here's the thing. Do you really want to be where there's open carry, and if a gun goes off, it's melee? You have to really think about these things when you're protesting. If you have questions about this, you need to look up or question a criminal law attorney about castle law, which is in your home. Basically, in a general sense, in your home, if someone enters and there's a reasonable fear that you have imminent harm, you can respond reasonably to the level of harm that you think is coming upon you. That is that's in your home. Do you have a right to defend yourself, which is stand your ground? Every state, I cannot emphasize this enough, every state has a different stand your ground law or similar or what have you. Stand your ground would be in your business, outside on the street. If I saw someone about to put a knife in someone, yeah, I can, assault them and take the risk to stop them. Again, it has to be reasonable, and you've got to know your state laws. From a personal point of view at my business, and hearing a police officer recently say, get out. If there's a riot and it's getting bad, just get out. Your safety. Is it worth it? My question with stand your ground would be, could you have been at home? Was it reasonable? Did you need to defend that property? Why didn't you empty out your business? There are a lot of questions legally that are going to be asked that you're not going to think of because you're just going to be emotional. So for me, I've emptied out anything important in my office, and I'm going to stay home, whether I have boards up or not. So a lot of this is common sense. But if you do anything, I would say go to your local sheriff, go to the website I gave you, State of California Department of Justice. What you're going to be researching is stand your ground or, in your domain, in your castle law. But follow your heart, follow your gut. And if you're in danger, get out. Get out immediately. Don't try to fight if you don't have to.
Right. Your life is more important than any property, especially your business property. Your family would agree with me, I'm sure. So with that, I hope we've answered your questions. If you have additional questions, then you can email me. My email is suzanne@lawyer.com, SUZANNE@LAWYER.com. Sandy, do you want to give your information?
Yeah, I'm Sandy, SANDY at SandraNutt@attorneyatlaw.com. And I just want everybody to be safe.
That's right. Yes. So hopefully this video was useful and helpful, and everybody stay safe and healthy. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.